The distress beacon flickered weakly in the crimson twilight of Kepler 442b, its signal barely strong enough to penetrate the planet's dense atmosphere. Phelan crouched beside the wreckage of his scout ship, his breath forming small clouds in the alien air. The crash had been catastrophic, a catastrophic malfunction in the hyperdrive that sent him spiraling into this uncharted world. Now he was alone, stranded on a planet that wanted him dead, or so he thought. The first sign of life came 3 days after the crash. Phelan had been scavenging parts from the wreckage when he heard it, a low, guttural growl that seemed to resonate from the very ground itself. He spun around, plasma cutter raised, only to find himself face to face with the most peculiar creature he'd ever encountered. It was roughly the size of a large dog, with thick silvery fur that shimmered like liquid metal under the twin suns. Its eyes were intelligent, predatory, and locked directly onto his. But what struck Phelan most was its resemblance to an earth animal he'd studied in xenobiology classes, a honey badger. The same compact, muscular build, the same fearless stance, the same look that said, "I don't care what you are, I'll fight you anyway." "Easy there," Phelan whispered, slowly lowering his weapon. "I'm not looking for trouble." The creature tilted its head, studying him with an intensity that made his skin crawl. Then, without warning, it turned and disappeared into the dense undergrowth of crystalline vegetation. Phelan exhaled. Crisis averted. But the creature returned the next morning, dragging something in its powerful jaws, a carcass of what looked like a 6-legged reptilian creature, still warm. It dropped the kill at the edge of Phelan's makeshift camp and sat back on its haunches, watching him expectantly. "Are you bringing me food?" Phelan asked incredulously. The creature blinked once, then twice, as if to say, "Obviously." That's when Phelan noticed the wound, a deep gash along the creature's hind leg, oozing a phosphorescent blue liquid that must have been blood. It had been injured, probably in the same magnetic storm that had brought down his ship. And yet, instead of hiding away to lick its wounds, it had hunted for him. "All right," Phelan said softly, reaching for his medical kit. "Let's make a deal. I'll patch you up, and you keep doing whatever it is you're doing." The creature didn't resist as Phelan approached. It sat perfectly still while he cleaned and sealed the wound with biogel, its eyes never leaving his face. When he finished, it made a sound, not quite a purr, not quite a growl, something in between that resonated with unexpected warmth. "I'm going to call you Shuri," Phelan decided, after an ancient Earth warrior, fierce, unstoppable, and apparently way too stubborn to know when to quit. From that day forward, Shuri became his constant companion. The planet was hostile in ways Phelan hadn't anticipated. The crystalline forests harbored predators that could camouflage themselves perfectly, their bodies refracting light to become nearly invisible. The acidic rain that fell every 72 hours could dissolve through his environmental suit if he wasn't careful. And the night creatures, massive centipede-like horrors with razor-sharp mandibles, hunted anything that moved after dark. But with Shuri by his side, survival became almost manageable. She had an uncanny ability to sense danger before it arrived. More than once, she'd growled a warning that sent Phelan diving for cover just seconds before a refractor beast lunged from the shadows. She led him to underground springs where the water was clean and safe to drink. She showed him which fungi were edible and which would kill him in minutes. And when the night creatures came, Shuri fought with a ferocity that left Phelan in awe. Despite her small size, she was relentless, fearless, attacking joints and vulnerable spots with surgical precision. She didn't care that the creatures were 10 times her size. She didn't care about the odds. She fought because Phelan was her friend, and friends protected each other. One evening, as they sat together beside a fire, Phelan had managed to coax from the ship's remaining fuel cells. He found himself talking to her. "You know what's funny, Shuri? Back home, we humans have this reputation. We're the crazy ones in the galaxy, the ones who don't know when to quit, the ones who'll befriend anything, fight anything, survive anything." He scratched behind her ears, and she leaned into his touch. "But I think you've got us beat. You're what we'd call a honey badger back on Earth, a creature so stubborn, so fearless, that even death thinks twice before messing with it." Shuri made that strange purring growl sound again, and Phelan could have sworn she understood every word. The rescue came 6 weeks later. A patrol ship picked up the distress beacon's faint signal and traced it to Kepler 442b. When the rescue team found Phelan, They were shocked. Not just that he'd survived, but that he'd thrived. His camp was organized, well defended, and he'd even managed to cultivate a small garden of local plants. And beside him sat Shuri, her silvery fur gleaming, her eyes watching the newcomers with protective suspicion. "Sir, you can't bring that creature aboard," the captain said firmly. "It's an unclassified alien species." "Protocol dictates." "Oh, then I'm not coming," Phelan interrupted, his hand resting on Shuri's head. "She saved my life. Multiple times. She's not staying here alone." The captain opened his mouth to argue, then paused. He'd heard the stories about humans. Their legendary stubbornness, their tendency to pack bond with literally anything, their refusal to abandon those they considered friends. Looking at the determination in Phelan's eyes, he realized this wasn't a battle worth fighting. "Fine," he sighed, "but she's your responsibility. And you're filing all the paperwork." Phelan grinned. "Deal." As the ship lifted off from Kepler 442b, Phelan watched through the viewport as the planet's surface shrank below them. Shuri sat beside him, her paw resting on his leg, completely unbothered by the rumbling of the engines or the strangeness of her new surroundings. "You know what the galaxy's going to learn, Shuri?" Phelan said softly. "That humans aren't the only ones crazy enough to befriend the universe. Sometimes the universe befriends us, right?" "Back." Shuri looked up at him with those intelligent eyes and made her signature sound, that impossible mix of purr and growl that somehow meant everything and nothing at once. Friendship, Phelan had learned, didn't require a common language. It only required a common courage, the courage to trust, to protect, and to stand together against a universe that could be beautiful and terrible in equal measure. And in that courage, he and Shuri had found something neither of them had known they needed: each other.